Wali Kali. There's a legend about how this territory got its name. They said this white guy, an explorer, was there and asked, "What's that over there?" And there's a word, I should have written it down. There's a word that sounds kind of like Wali Kali, but it means something else entirely. And the white guy said, "Oh, we're in Wali Kali." Good story, right? In any case, Wali Kali is a jungle. And it was sort of off limits for the last few years. Actually, off limits for many years, since '96. And recently there was an accord signed between two armed groups, one called Raya Mutomboki. It's Raya Mutomboki Wali Kali as opposed to Raya Mutomboki groups in Shabunda. Different leadership. And the other group was Mai Mai Kifua Fua. So these groups signed an accord, demobilized to a certain degree, and this caused peace on earth, goodwill towards men in Wali Kali. And we decided to check this out. So a colleague and I got on some motorcycle taxis, and 10 hours later, we arrived in Wali Kali. It's beautiful. You can see here this picture looking down from a hill. You're looking at Wali Kali town. So in the territory of Wali Kali, which is the third largest territory in all of Congo, and about the same size as Rwanda, the entire country, you have this one main city, and you're looking at it. So there was this is a great trip. Because it was the first time in a place, and it was the first time for me to arrive there. I got to talk to a bunch of people who are involved in the negotiations. I survived many transportation adventures. I saw some real jungle, all manner of smoked animals, and I wasn't forced to eat them. And it was one of those trips, honestly, where I kept thinking to myself sarcastically, we're about to do that? What could go wrong? And that started with this trip. 10 hours on the back of a motorcycle is definitely an adventure. These little Chinese-made 125cc motorcycles. But, we made it. Just about everything hurt, but we made it. And here you can see just how beautiful it is. We did some obligatory visits to the local churches, and one of these churches, the women's group, was showing off their basket making. And I said, "Oh, that's kind of a cool skill. Can you show me how to make baskets?" And they said, "No, women make baskets, silly American." So I didn't learn anything. Well, I learned that I was not to learn that particular skill. One of the people we met with was this guy on the left. And seriously, he looks like your jovial neighbor who's going to give you gardening advice. And when we met with him, I thought he was just the chief, the local customary chief. And he is that. We talked for a while. I asked some of my standard questions. What made the difference this time? Lots of people have tried to reconcile armed groups, but, you were successful. What made it happen? And everybody we talked to, including this guy, said, well, a lot of people were involved, a lot of people contributed, but, it was mostly me. I am mostly responsible for this reconciliation. Administrators said that, church leaders said that, civil society folks said that, politicians said that, local chief now saying that. And he even had an original copy of the signed agreement. And when he also wrote down his name and phone number for me, I looked at the name and was thinking, wait, I know that name. That's the name of the guy who's in charge of Raya Mutomboki. So he was not only the customary chief, he's also the head of this militia. And he had said, also in answer to one of my questions, that the way he had worked at disarmament was he spent the last 3 years trying to raise awareness, reach out to the Raya Mutomboki. The guy's in charge of Raya Mutomboki. He's the leader. He could say his idea of doing outreach to Raya Mutomboki was apparently telling them who to attack and when. But yeah, maybe I should have picked up on the fact that he was more than just a customary chief. You can see his watch band here. There's this animal skin, and that's Grigri. It's a piece of something that has magical powers. In this case, to protect you from bullets or explosions. It makes you bulletproof. and we had some interesting discussions with former militia members, and it's kind of one of my favorite topics to ask questions about. So how do you know this works? And they'll tell stories like, well, there was this time somebody shot an RPG at us, a rocket-propelled grenade, and I said, "That's my rocket," and I jumped in front of it and blocked it with my chest. And I think actually the comment that he said after that was, "We Africans are serious." I think if it was the correct translation in English would be, "Africans are serious, yo." In any case, lots of good stories. I also like to ask, what's in it? What do you put in this stuff that makes you bulletproof? And they say things like, well, animal teeth, certain plants. Sometimes the person explained to me that they bang river rocks against each other with these, with the plants in between, and that is part of the gree-gree. When I asked specifically one of these demobilized soldiers, how do you make it? He said, in a pot. Okay, so you make it in a pot, you stir it up, and it's magic, and then you inject it, or you use animal skins that have been dipped in it. I don't know if I told the story yet. When I was in Fiji with another armed group, I asked a guy about it, and he knew, Westerners, white people tend to not believe in this. And so he said, I will prove it to you. Here's my AK-47. Try to shoot me. It won't hurt me. And there's just kind of like this pause. And before I came up with a response, he said, or I could inject you with gree-gree, with the magic, and then I'll try to shoot you, and nothing will happen to you, and that's how you'll know that it's real. And I was like, I've got these other appointments. I would really love for you to try to shoot me after injecting me with something, really, but I just don't have time right now. I think the strategy to take next time will be to say, let's buy a goat, we'll inject it with gree-gree, I'll try to shoot it with your AK-47, and we'll video it. And either it dies, and we eat it, which means it's not a terrible use of resources, or it will live, and we'll have an awesome video testimony of the power of gree-gree. So that's my plan next time around. In any case, I think MC Sears with AK-47s is bound to go off well. Next part. Because we decided that it was not all that fun to be on motorcycles for 9 to 10 hours, we wanted to look into other forms of transportation. It turns out there's a Wally Kali International Airport, and you're looking at it. A couple times a day, a flight will come in from Goma or Bukavu, and we met with the guy who explained, you just talk to the pilot, you say, how much do you want for us to go along? You give them some money, you get in the plane, they drive you out. Good story. The person who gave me this tip happens to be called Etienne Tshisekedi. If you know anything about Congolese politics, Etienne Tshisekedi is the 80-something-year-old opposition candidate who's been an opposition candidate for decades. And this was his brother with the same name. So he had all kinds of good stories, telling me about his brother, his crazy brother with his non-violent tactics and whatnot, and it was a pretty interesting conversation. Not every day you run into the younger brother of one of the most well-known Congolese politicians. But in any case, we decided, yes, we are taking this plane, and we were told to be there at 9 a.m. We showed up at 9:05, just in time to watch the plane take off. So the next day, we were there at 6 in the morning, and of course the plane didn't arrive till afternoon, and it didn't come from Bukavu, it came from Goma, so we decided, okay, we're just getting on this plane, we're going to Goma. And it was a good example of why it's so easy to smuggle stuff out, minerals or weapons. The plane arrives, nobody's there to look at what's in it, they just unload, other people arrive and put stuff in the plane, and you fly away. So who knows how much coltan, gold, bauxite, weaponry was in it or not in it. Also interesting was the fact that everything in this plane was in Russian, including all the controls, and I am 99.9% certain the pilots do not read Russian. It's kind of weird, but we made it. But it was a bit of the never-ending journey. When we got to Goma, we had to take the boat to get to Bukavu. And the boat was supposed to be a speedboat. It left at 2 in the afternoon, but we still weren't in Bukavu by the time it got dark. So it's night. There are all these other canoes in the water because there are fishermen all over the place. And do we slow down? No. Do we have lights to see? No. And it's storming. Thunder, lightning, which was actually probably advantageous because the only time we could see anything was when there was lightning. So we'd have these the fishermen standing up in their boat, waving their phones, to have a little bit of light to, don't run into us. We would swerve around them. We could have slowed down. I kind of thought, this is, I made it 10 hours on a motorcycle in the jungle. I made it on a little Russian plane. And now the easy part, the boat, we're going to kill somebody. And you got to say, that wouldn't have even been the first time that day. While we were waiting at this airport, a motorcycle came by, a toddler, I don't know, 2 years old. How old do you have to be to walk? But just old enough to walk, it looked like to me. Gets out in front of this motorcycle, waddles out there, gets hit and killed. Life is rough here. You don't have hospitals. Not that a hospital would have helped in that case, but no infrastructure, no social programs to help you out, especially in the jungle. And it's just, what can you say? Or you're a fisherman, and you are out at night trying to fish, and speedboats come through without lights. Yeah, it's no wonder people die all the time here. Anyway, that's my little rant about that. Let's move on. On that note, English language shirt of the day. That's what she said. So basically, Congo or Africa in general is where shirts go to die. If you have a shirt that you can't resell at a secondhand store, you put it in a bundle and you send it to Africa. So you get all kinds of cheerleading or let's say one-time use shirts where you get a blank shirt, you put sprinkles all over it. Sprinkles? Sparkles? Glitter. You put stuff all over it and you paint on it, "Go Tracy, good luck at State." And that's the kind of stuff that ends up in Congo. And so I try to take pictures of the interesting ones. And also, there are even Steeler fans in Congo. Actually, this is probably just a shirt that she bought and has no idea that she's wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey just east of Goma in the town of Sake, representing. And now it's time for the update on the protein count. We now have somewhere between 35 and 40 chickens. We started with 4, but they all had offspring at the same time, by way of eggs. That's how that works, by the way. So, a bunch of eggs hatched at the same time. We have 30-some baby chickens. We also have 3 rabbits now. This is for rabbits. This side's for rabbits as well. And in the middle is where the chickens live at night. And we have 12 guinea pigs. So in case of apocalypse and or occupation of Goma, I have enough protein for a really long time. Yeah, so that's it for today. The end of a really long video blog. Once again, feel free to contact me if you have suggestions of things to talk about, questions, anything like that, or music. Don't forget that. In any case, I'm done. I'm out. Have a good one.